everyone. My name is Rein. And today I'll be informing you on the topic of urban farming. So, according to my audience analysis, 90% of you have eaten food that's been grown in a home vegetable garden. Today I'm going to tell you why that's important, and I'm also going to share with you how it is helpful to people and how it benefits community. First, I will cover what and how, as far as what urban farming is and how you can implement urban farming in your life. And then I'll cover the effects on the individual and also the effects on the community. And so my parents, they farmed for 10 years before I was born, and I've also this past summer worked in the farming industry as a farmhand, and I've successfully grown plants from seed to give food for myself prior. And so as far as my purpose today, it'll be to teach you more on urban farming. And so Dorian Howard from the Old Farmer's Almanac, which is a publication that has been around since 1792, and that's been providing farmers with information for the past couple of hundred years in the US. And so she provides information on starting your own raised bed. And that it's something simple that you can do by using cedar planks or cinder blocks, just to create some little area where you can have soil and grow plants. And so going onto the Home Depot and doing a search, it adds up to about $90, which won't set you back too far, and you'll see a lot of return on investment from that money that you spend. And so also, you can go around, and this is what I did. This is a raised bed that I scavenged from the alleys of Tempe and just filled with soil, and actually the plants in there didn't take a lot of money. They were just composted from old vegetables that I had. And so this is a tomato plant that was just from a composted seed that had been sitting in the soil, and it ended up growing into a plant. And so that can yield you a lot of good food, and you can get specialty items that you wouldn't normally be able to get at the store, and that can actually end up saving you money and being beneficial. And so who in here thinks they know what the word urban means? Stephanie, can you define it for us?
Oh, I wasn't typing that. Like a city-ish area.
All right, and who thinks they know what the word farming means? Alonso?
Growing food.
Yeah, so essentially urban farming is just growing food out of the context of a regular farm environment. And so that's something that all of us can really do in here and get started with. And it can really benefit you by end up growing delicious food that you might not be able to get otherwise. And so also, we want to cover how it affects the individual. And so for me, this is an old potato that I left over last winter break in my apartment in the pantry. And so they ended up growing eyes. And you can actually turn that into a plant, and it'll create a sprout and grow you potatoes. And so I was actually able, even though it's a very small potato, it still meant a lot to me to be able to eat something that I had grown, and also reflect back on the past 60 days while that had been growing, so for over 2 months, the different things that I'd gone through in my life, and then just end up eating that potato, and it sort of reminds you of any tough times or good times that you've been through. And so now I'm going to ask you all to just close your eyes for a minute, and I'm going to read aloud to you an excerpt from John Hank for the New York Times. So just close your eyes and listen and imagine you're in this spot. At a dead-end street in a blighted section of this city, crumbling roofs and old factories, smokestacks and the Interstate 95 overpass loom overhead, casting long shadows on an October afternoon. Along one end of a field, children playing soccer. On the other, men stand around motorcycles, sipping from beer cans. This is hardly the city's garden spot. Yet alongside the street, on a 1/4 acre of land tucked between the muddy parking lot of the Quinnipiac River, a garden does grow, a lush, well-tended vegetable garden, where on a recent Tuesday, about 35 people, most of them local, were busily harvesting carrots and kale they helped raise. Now, open your eyes, and I think a lot of us probably had a few different images in our head, and we felt like we could imagine this spot. And so this is something that can end up being in your own life as an individual and having beneficial effects on your health. So this program in New Haven, Connecticut ended up benefiting a large community of 16,500 people, and some of them claimed that they were able to lose 60 pounds due to eating healthily from this program, that they were also able to reduce their risks for type 2 diabetes. And doctors in the area actually were prescribing participation in a wellness program for the members of this community to help them out and to live healthier lifestyles. And so by getting engaged, you can see these benefits, such as losing weight or losing risk factors for type 2 diabetes, and that can end up really helping you live a nicer lifestyle. And so also, by helping out your community, you can grow food together, and so you can end up growing things such as herbs, which are very small cost, very small space requirements, and they're able to be used in seasoning and other dishes as well. You can grow garlic, and then also if you want to, you can expand like my parents did, and they ended up having bees, and we were able to harvest honey and honeycomb and sell that. And also you can end up having chickens and fresh eggs, which are infinitely better, I think, in my opinion, than ones that are used, maybe you can get from the grocery store, and that they really do have a difference in flavor and such for cooking. And so some other things that you can see as far as for sharing with your community, as the people in the New Haven, Connecticut urban farm did, they would get together and have dinners using the ingredients that were used. And you can also help reduce the heat island effect, which is the use, what happens when the sun beats down on the blacktop for a lot during the day. It actually ends up creating higher overall temperatures. So having green spaces can help reduce the CO2 emissions in your community and benefit everybody. And so as well, you can get some information from the USDA on how to implement and get grants. And so they put out a lot of information like this with your state. And another thing is that the Agriculture Marketing Resource Center, they put out some data that said that 27 million pounds of tomatoes were harvested in the US this past year. And so grabbing today's or this week's flyer from the supermarket, I know it's a little hard to see, but tomatoes are $1.49 a pound. And so actually you can benefit your community by implementing urban farms, where if everybody consumes 1 more pound of tomatoes that they've grown themselves through that year, that ends up being $41 million that can be invested into local communities as well, which can provide some large benefits. And so today I've told you about what urban farming is. We've covered how you can begin urban farming in your life, and also how it can benefit the individual and your community. And also just one safety thing, make sure if you're farming you have your hat, and also you wear your sunscreen. Because when you're out in the sun for a while, you want to protect yourself against skin cancer, and you can still work up a nice tan like I did. So, thank you.